Poquoson City School Board meeting to order. Cassidy.
I pledge allegiance, sorry about that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In honor of yesterday being Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I would like to share with you an excerpt from a speech he gave in Montgomery, Alabama in 1956. Whatever your life's work is, do it well, even if it does not fall in the category of one of the so-called big professions. Do it well. As one college president said, a man should do his job so well that the living, the dead, and the unborn can do it no better. If it falls to your lot to be a street sweeper, sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures, like Shakespeare wrote poetry, like Beethoven composed music. Sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, here lived a great street sweeper who swept his job well. Martin Luther King Jr. was a pastor, an activist, and a civil rights icon. He embodied leadership and hard work in all that he did, as we should throughout this semester, throughout this new year, and beyond. So, as you move forward with your academics and extracurricular activities, strive to be the best you can. And as Martin Luther King Jr. said, do it well. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassidy. Next up is a student video presentation from the Pcps Art Department.
This is my face picture. Hi, Miss Lynn. My name is Charlotte Albert, and I hope you like my train. I really do. I really hope you like it, and I hope you have a great weekend. Bye. Hi, Miss Lynn. This is my art project for the toucan. I loved it. Bye.
Look what I just made. I used the block for the shadows.
Hi, Miss Lynn. I really enjoyed your project. Here's mine with organic and box. Bye.
Good morning. I'll be showing off my origami projects I did today. So first we have the butterfly, which is pretty simple, and I ended it off with a pink ribbon instead of doing string or yarn. Very nice. Second, I did the fish, which is not my favorite, but I finished it off with a nice smiley face to really add to it. Third is probably the cleanest one I did today, which is the sailboat. Probably my favorite just because how clean the folds were and how simple it was. Last, probably the most fun and challenging, which was nice, was the crane. I liked it just because the challenge it took and how clean, honestly, all these folds came out. surprised with origami today. I thought it would be very tedious and too challenging because I'm not one to be folding paper, but I found it to be really fun, and I'm honestly hoping we do some more. Bye.
Thank you all. Is additions or modifications to the agenda, Ms. Reimers, do we have any?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay, then I would like to make a motion that we move item D from the consent agenda, approval of minutes for the December regular meeting, to item A, I guess, first item for other matters for consideration.
I second that motion.
Reimers, would you like to call for a vote, or would you like for me to do a all in favor?
It's up to you, Chairman Carter.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the motion carries. We'll move item D to other matters. Next item is recognitions, Poquoson High School Senior Month, and that will also be a video presentation.
The January Student of the Month is Maggie Nelson. Maggie is a very bright young woman with a terrific work ethic. She never hesitates to challenge herself with honors and advanced placement level coursework, and thus far has always achieved straight A's. Her dedication to academics has earned her a place in the National Honor Society, the French Honor Society, and the Music Honor Society. As a former military student, Maggie has lived overseas in Japan for several years and has traveled extensively. These experiences have provided her with a greater appreciation for other cultures and a broader global worldview. Outside of the classroom, Maggie is an accomplished trumpet player and has served as section leader in the school band for the past 2 years. She is also an active member of the Journalism Club and is the current vice president for the Leo Club. Additionally, Maggie assists the PHS Theater Department as a member of the stage crew and enjoys singing in the youth choir at her church. When not involved in any of the previously mentioned activities, you may find her working at either Poquoson Gifts or at Target. Please join me in congratulating Ms. Maggie Nelson, our January Student of the Month.
Congratulations, Maggie. For presentations and reports, first up is reopening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, this is our 7th reopening of schools update. But we do have some brand new information. You may have seen in the news and heard around that the Virginia Department of Education has approved a new set of guidance for the opening of schools or reopening of schools that has been vetted again by all the various organizations. This has come from a lot of conversations over the last several months about what the opening of school looks like around the Commonwealth of Virginia. And what you'll see through this presentation is, whether we're lucky or good, I'm not sure, but Poquoson has kind of been on the front edge of this, doing a lot of the things that are now part of the current guidance that was not actually included in the original guidance. That was more vague and ambiguous, quite honestly, and so school divisions had to kind of find their own way as we navigated through these uncharted territory. But the guiding principles of this model is, again, back to what we've been saying all along. We want to get all of our kids back to school as soon as we can, and that is the guiding movement in this new set of guidelines and recommendations. Is to support in-person instruction, to prioritize our youngest learners first, and then students with disabilities and our English language learners, and put education first, focus on prevention, consider community needs, and be flexible and innovative. The CDC indicators have not changed, but the VDH and VDOE guidelines that are in this new interim guidance are not contradictory or in conflict with the CDC guidance that's been around from the beginning, which again we have tried to follow very carefully, and that's that schools use the 5 mitigation strategies with fidelity, and we'll talk a little bit about our work in that area. And then we've been looking at the 14-day trend for the last 2 months, and then we were looking at daily COVID numbers originally, because that's the data that we had access to. And of course, part of that data is the positivity rates that change over time. These strategies I'll go through pretty quickly because this is nothing new to us, but these are the mitigation strategies that school divisions must do with fidelity in order to mitigate the spread of COVID as we try to transition more students in school. They are the requirements, so to speak. If you deviate from those things and then a spread happens in your schools, that's where you get into dangerous territory. This is just a glimpse. We've consolidated those multiple slides you're used to looking at into one slide just to expedite this information as you're used to seeing these data on a regular basis. And of course, they're available daily at 10 o'clock. I am accustomed to my face naturally turns to my computer and I automatically click that website at 10 o'clock every day to watch those numbers. But you'll see the trend, and this is nothing new. If you turn on your television, you're going to see this around the country. All predicted from holidays. It started with the Thanksgiving holiday. The trend started to climb, and we saw high numbers from that, and then they started to plateau, and then the winter break and Christmas holidays, and those numbers have climbed again, and you'll see that trend. If you'll notice, though, around the middle of December, we were at a kind of an all-time high in our transmission rates of 1952 over 100,000 population, although our PCR number was hovering around 11, 12. I think it popped up around 15 a couple of days later. And then as of today, you'll see that number, the positivity of the PCR jumped to 19, is around 19.1. That number in the last 2 weeks has been as high as 22.5. As well, that 1,000 was up to 1,100 a week or so ago, and then a week prior to that, it was down around 800. So those numbers do go up, and again, those are actual numbers amortized over 100,000 population, and the positivity rates are the percentages of positive results. So we watch those numbers daily, we monitor that, but what's different about this plan is it encourages you to not just use those numbers to plan whether to bring kids to school or not. A lot of divisions around us are still in the planning stages of bringing their first groups of children. And I know I don't have to remind you, we started day one with our pre-K to third graders in school. And shortly a month after, we brought our fourth and fifth graders. And then right after Thanksgiving, we brought our sixth and seventh graders in. And today, we have all of the students whose families chose to be in person for instruction in school. And that's an unusual model around the peninsula, certainly, and around the region. But it's a trend that we're proud of, because what you're going to see in this presentation is we've done that by being very intentional about the mitigation strategies and have also kept the spread of COVID out of the schools. There's a lot to this process, and we'll talk a little bit about it without getting too much in the weeds tonight. But considerations for school impact, you're going to hear a lot in the new interim guidance about school impact, and that's basically what impact is the spread in your community actually having inside the walls of your school. Now, this is only pertinent to schools that have actually had kids in school. Some of the school divisions around who have not actually had in-person learning happening are going to have to, they won't have this data to look at, whereas in Poquoson, we do actually have some concrete data about COVID cases affecting students who attend our school, but have not seen a spread of COVID happen in any of our buildings as of yet, thank goodness. It looks at the number of outbreaks, it looks at the duration of outbreaks, it looks at the size and the level of spread in your school. So it gets right down into details when you start looking at the impact of COVID in your school system. This is a simple chart that's in this new interim guidance that talks about transmission within the school, and they categorize it, of course, in low, medium, and high, which is the model that we've been using all along as we analyze the cases of COVID around the community. And now we're looking at it specifically as it relates to in the school. One of the new pieces is student absenteeism. Of course, we monitor student absences daily, so we will be tracking in this new guidance absenteeism and using that as part of the formula as we start to see cases of COVID around the community. If our absentee rate goes up while we have kids in school, that's a piece of this model to look at. And of course, as always, and this sounds like a broken record to you, we always have to consider our staff capacity. You can't teach school without teachers. So when there is an outbreak in a community that could affect our staff, then when you have multiple teachers out, it limits our ability to provide in-person instruction. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well in a minute. This is the data that we publish daily on our website that shows actual cases of students and staff in our buildings. You'll notice the asterisk, we have been advised to wait until we have at least 5 cases before we publish the numbers to protect the confidentiality of individuals in our schools, especially in a small school environment like this. So you'll notice the total is 25. So we have had less than 5 cases at the high school for obvious reasons, and central office and division staff as well. So those numbers are less than 5, but you can do the math. They add up to 8. So these are secondary indicators. If you go to the VDH website and look at each locality, and I encourage you to do that as often as you can, and look under the schools tab, you'll notice that in there are the primary indicators, which we've talked about at every meeting, but there's also secondary indicators, and they talk about these 4 pieces of data as well. So it looks at, in addition to what's going on in your community, what is the capacity for treating folks in the community, hospital beds, how many COVID patients, and the number of outbreaks. So these are pieces of data points that you can look at. We watch those. I have found that those numbers change pretty radically too, and Christy can attest to that in that profession, that those numbers about available hospital beds and such go up and down, and I don't monitor that as closely as the primary numbers, but we do look at that, and as of today, those are in moderate ranges for us here on the peninsula. Yeah.
I was just wondering why they monitor the overall number of hospital beds. I'm sure you don't have that answer, but I mean, I definitely COVID patients, but.
Right, yeah, it's just an interesting piece of data. I'm not really sure why it's there, and I have noticed that for us, just in glancing at it, has gone green, red, yellow, and it kind of pivots back and forth. I'm not sure exactly what the impact of that would be unless you had a significant outbreak and then didn't have the capacity. Now, in our area, unlike the place I used to live, we've got a lot of medical providers here in the area, a lot of hospitals, great hospitals near us. That is an advantage, certainly in a pandemic. Two very important points to consider, and regardless of the indicators and what's going on in the community, the more you have students and staff interacting with each other, the more risk. That's an obvious. But the more we adhere to these mitigation strategies with fidelity, the better it is for us to mitigate those risks and keep COVID out of our buildings and the spread from happening here. So it really does, and I can't stress this enough, it takes all of us doing our part inside and outside of the school. I can promise you in the buildings, we're gonna do all the things we say we're doing. We're watching kids. I watch as the kids come into and out of the buildings, the teachers continually reminding them, don't forget to, keep your distance. Reminding them about their mask, reminding them about washing their hands. We're doing everything we can do with consistency to mitigate these risks. But when a kid goes home, that monitoring about the kids' whereabouts and behaviors has to be monitored by someone else, because that same opportunity. We want our kids to be able to play sports, for example. We believe strongly in that in Poquoson, and we have our kids. We're going to win tonight, actually. We want our kids playing, but if the team gets a positive case by one of its team members, then the whole team gets quarantined, and that is a terrible, awful thing. So part of the responsibility we've stressed to our athletes, you got to kind of go by these rules in your personal life so that we can continue to play sports. And that's an important part of this thing, and we're all in it together. I won't read through these next few slides because these are just part of this interim guidance, and it talks about the risk levels of transmission. And you see that the lowest risk is obviously with less kids in the buildings, fully virtual, and that increase the risk as you go up to more face-to-face interaction. So what should schools be doing? And I want you to think about these next few slides in relationship to what we have been doing and what you know about what Poquoson schools have been doing really since the beginning. And I won't highlight this too much, but the 6 feet of physical distancing, from all the indications that we have been hearing, that is a primary mitigation strategy that we believe has significantly helped us keep COVID out of the schools here in Poquoson. So we're continuing to stress that. If you go to any of our classrooms at any time, you'll see the desks are spaced 6 feet apart. We often get the question, how can we get more kids back? And the answer is, we've got to be able to get more kids in a classroom each day. And the only way that's going to change is with this guidance changing so that the 6 feet becomes some other number. So we can add additional desks into those spaces. Right now, this is the guidance, and we're adhering to it in great detail. But as that guidance may change over time, and we're going to talk a little bit in a minute about the vaccination process that you're all hearing about. And that may be a game changer as we go forward, looking at next steps for Poquoson. Of course, we've closed all of our mass gathering spaces, auditoriums, the forum, the common area at the high school, which was a gathering place for kids. Those places are off limits now. And again, it's all about trying to check every box about mitigation strategies that we can to prevent the spread. We do a daily health screening. Our high school kids got their first one today at 6:22 or so. And many of our high school kids are taking that assessment themselves because they know more about their own personal health probably than their parents do at that age, especially at 6 o'clock in the morning. And so we also, part of the strategy is to provide the Poquoson Online for our students and even staff that have pre-existing conditions. We have a clear plan for isolation in the event someone is at school and displays symptoms. We immediately react to that. I want to mention this as a sidebar. You all have heard it many times, but again, for folks at home, part of what's really working for us, and there's no perfect plan, but what's really working for us is this contact tracing piece, where in Poquoson, if there's any indication that someone's been exposed to the virus, we immediately start the process of contact tracing. And it's not perfectly scientific, because you're relying on the information that an individual gives you about their whereabouts, who they've been in contact with. But we do that from a possible exposure right from the beginning. And it does require us to quarantine in that event. And sometimes we're doing a quarantine before a test has come back. That gives us maybe 2 or 3 days ahead of the curve. But if we did not do that, then that person who has possibly been exposed comes back positive. They may have 2, 3, 4 days of exposing other people. Does that make sense? So part of this initial contact tracing, and again, I say it a lot, but it falls on the shoulders of Ashley Ryer primarily. She's our point of contact and has done an incredible job. It also then goes to our principals, Dr. Fox, many others who are then on the phone in the evenings, Saturdays, Sundays, because we don't get to shut that down. Whenever there's a possible case where someone has been in contact with the virus, this process starts. And I think, again, this has made a huge impact on those numbers you saw. Those numbers of 25, that's from August. Those are, of all the radical cases you've seen in numbers, that's 25 cases, none with any evidence of having been contracted or spread in our buildings. So I just want to reiterate that contact tracing piece, and that's what this is about. It's about the isolation piece and making sure that we're doing that stuff on the front end. And of course, we do work closely with the Peninsula Health Department. You've heard me say that many times. So I'm going to go through real quickly here. This is a kind of a summary of the 5 steps, the self-assessment with the 5 mitigation strategies. How well are you doing that? How consistently are you doing that? How is that working? To determine the level of community transmission, that's number 2. Those are the numbers we watch constantly. And then number 3, has this had an impact in your school? Does the community spread, has it ended up transmitting in your school or not? And then fourthly, what are the community needs? Childcare, all the other things that we look at on a regular basis. And then number 5, once you look at all of that, you put it together and then you decide, how can you bring kids back to school? Many schools around us are having these conversations with this new guidance right now. Those are the conversations we had in July and August, and are now, have been kind of doing these things all along. Again, I won't go through these steps. These are the things we've done. Step 1, step 2, step 3. That's the new chart I referred to. Step 4, the community needs. And then this is where it ends up. This is the final chart that school divisions will be using after they've collected all that information to determine their mitigation strategies. How well are they doing the 5 recommended mitigation strategies? And then what impacts are having on their inside their school if they've had students in school. And if you'll look at us to just kind of fast forward, we're obviously at the highest rate all over the state of Virginia. If you'll look at the map, it's all red. So those numbers of community transmission is at the highest rate throughout the Commonwealth. But if you'll look at the level of school impact for Poquoson, that's extremely low. And then you compare that with our mitigation strategies that we believe has kept it low. And I would put that up there with anybody, the work we're doing there. So you can go all the way to the top right, and that's where we land right now in Poquoson. And we've got our priority learners in, have been in since the beginning, and we have added groups throughout, culminating in finally all of our students who chose to be in school in person are in school as of today. The next step will be, we'll have to require some changes in advice and guidance from the health experts about social distancing. It just boils down to that. The next big elephant in the room is vaccines. And people have a lot of different views about vaccines. Some folks we have heard have some serious concerns about taking the vaccine. We have heard folks around the community who have already received at least the first shot. Many are, and some have even had the second shot. The rollout of the vaccine program, and I don't think I'm off base in saying this, has not met the expectations that most of us had, and I think that may be the understatement of the year. We were very hopeful that this rollout would be faster. We've been on the phone in constant contact with the Peninsula Health Department regularly throughout this process. They're also concerned about the limited quantity of vaccine that they're able to get their hands on. That's what we keep hearing. But these 4 bullets are where we are as of today. Bless you. We're in 1B tier, which is supposed to have already started on the peninsula. Many of the 1A tier folks are just now getting their vaccine here. I know that some of the folks from the city who are in that first tier are getting some vaccines, I think even on Friday. So they're working through that process. But we're next up, and we have just under 300 folks that we would love to have vaccinated as soon as possible. Our goal is to have everybody, all our staff, vaccinated by the end of February. Now that's assuming that, which is a logical assumption, that we'll be taking the 2-part vaccine. There is a product out there that's, I think, in the final stages of review. That's a 1-shot vaccine, but that will probably be 1B tier will probably be vaccinated prior to that rollout. But there is some hope in that as that vaccine rolls out, that will be able to vaccinate larger numbers of people because of the requirement for only 1 shot. But looks like we'll be taking the either the Pfizer or the Moderna product, and the goal is to have everybody vaccinated by the end of February. I was on the phone with the representative from the health department as late as this afternoon. So we're having constant conversations. We're poised and ready. Our school nurses will be part of that immunization process. They're being trained as we speak, along with other folks in the community have volunteered, first responders and others who are trained as well to administer the vaccine. So we're ready on our end. We're just waiting for the call, which could happen really any day, with a date of the product availability for our folks to receive their first vaccine. And again, our numbers are just under 300 that would immunize our whole staff. Yes. Yep.
Any surveys across the staff to see how many would be willing to get it, or?
Good question. We have not, and we did that intentionally. We believe strongly that this is a game changer for our ability to effectively instruct students in person. For all the reasons we've discussed. If a teacher is not able to be in the classroom teaching kids, that's a liability for our system. So we believe strongly that this is the right next step. So our expectation is that our staff take the vaccine. If you'll remember back in August, there was a lot of school divisions doing surveys around about whether staff was interested in coming back to school or how comfortable were you. Well, we said, welcome back. We know you're called to do this, and you love to be here with your kids. And so come back to school, here's when we're starting. And then if there's a reason that you can't be here for health reasons, let us know. And we've asked our folks to contact Debbie Bunting in our HR department. If there's a reason a personal reason that they can't, come to work. Well, we're thinking about this vaccine in the same way. This is kind of the next step to help get our kids all back to school and keep them there safely and keep our teachers there safely. And I can't say enough, and I'm going to jump on my soapbox just for a minute, if it's okay, to just brag on our teachers for a minute. And when I say teachers, I'm talking about our whole staff. We had teachers in school from day one. They've been reporting to work every day, other than the last couple of weeks after the winter break. Under the advice of the Peninsula Health Department, we did toggle back to fully virtual to accommodate this rise in numbers, COVID numbers. But our teachers have been in the buildings working every day. They've had kids in the building. They've been ready to go to work. I've had very little resistance from anybody about coming to work and teaching school. I don't know that every school division can say that, but we can say that in Poquoson. So our teachers our employees have just done an incredible job, and I don't have any reason to believe that'll be any different with the vaccine. I think they see that as a kind of a next step to help folks get back in school. Now, if somebody's got a health reason or any other reason that the vaccine is not right for them, then we're going to work through that with those employees. But that was a long answer to a short question, but we are hopeful and expecting all of our staff to take the vaccine. And so by the end of February, we hope to be fully vaccinated.
Or students after the vaccine?
Very good question, Dr. Carter, but all of that's going to be contingent on kind of a couple of things. One is when the vaccine is available for kids, because right now there's not a product that's available for kids. So part of getting everybody in the building is going to be when our kids vaccinated. The other piece to that is unless the guidance from the health professionals changes that physical distancing rule, because those are the two things at play. Once kids are vaccinated, then people will generally be safe to be in school. Until then, I haven't heard any talk of the physical distancing changing, or even the mask requirement. But as you know, the mask requirement is a governor's order. That can always change. We were not requiring masks in the beginning when we had our kids 6 feet distanced. But then when the governor's order changed that, so now we have the 6 feet and mask. But any of that could be fluid as the vaccine rolls out. But right now, I'm not aware of a product that kids can take to vaccinate themselves. And so that's kind of the next conversation in order to bring more kids back. Either the social distancing rule changes or vaccinations for kids happen. And they might happen together.
Distancing makes it physically impossible for us to have a full load of students every day.
Absolutely, yeah. There's no physical way to do it. It's a fairly simple formula. If you walk in any of our classrooms and you'll see the setup, and we've done it with wooden dowels measured 6 feet apart, where we create the space, and it's just literally a matter of how many desks can you put in this space. And so a general classroom, and this is something that maybe everybody doesn't know, is in Poquoson is somewhere around 25. That's an average number of class size in Poquoson. There's some that might have 20 and some that might have 28. but the average class size is somewhere around the 25 range. So if you've got 25 students who belong to that teacher at that particular moment, then in order to increase the number of kids in that classroom at 6 feet apart, which puts you about half, about 12 and a half kids. The only way to do that is to hire another teacher and build another classroom so they can all come the same day, or you've got to put them closer together. If, you know, prior to the 13th of March, most of our classrooms had 25 desks in them, and they had 25 kids in them. So as soon as that changed, and the rule of thumb was 12 kids in that classroom, all school divisions were trying to figure a way, how do we possibly do this? And that was the birth of the hybrid schedule, which says half of you can come today, the other half come tomorrow. And until that changes, we're ready. Nobody wants everybody back to school any more than I do, and I know you do, and our parents do. But until any of that changes, we're relegated. We've got as many kids in the classroom as we can have every day, and we're hopeful that something about that, between the vaccine, herd immunity, or change in guidance about physical distancing from the health professionals, allows us to bring more kids back. Good question, and we get that a lot. I get that probably more than any other question that we get on Let's Talk and other channels, emails, is how do we get more kids back? And that's the simple answer. Sure.
Something Ms. Hessel said made me think about this. So going back to the vaccinations, it's voluntary for staff to get the vaccination. Y'all are going to try to mandate it.
It's voluntary in the sense that, you know, we're not.
The school's going to provide it. If you want to get it, you can.
We'd like for you to have it. The question then, though, is at some point, does it make sense for an employee to say, I'm not going to take the vaccine when it's an avenue for us to collectively bring more kids to school and do it safely? I don't know. Right now, it is voluntary. Now, I will say this. Here's a caveat. School systems can require it. That's been vetted by the EEOC, all the attorneys, not debatable. So it is legally something you can require. Now, again, that's not the path we're headed down. We're hopeful, just like in the beginning, we didn't say, come to work or else. But we are hopeful that our employees want to take this and see this as a way up and out of this thing more quickly. I was reading an article just yesterday that the way to get, you know, we were all hopeful months ago that herd immunity would come naturally. And what most of the science experts, and I'm far from a science expert, have said that the vaccine is the kind of the only hope now to get to that level of herd immunity. And Dr. Fauci was quoted as originally saying 70% of Americans. Now it's closer to 80%, I think, is the latest number. And that's all way above my pay grade. But the goal is to get as many Americans, and we drill down as many Poquosians as we can, so that as people go about more normal life, we're not strapped down by this horrible virus. So I'm hopeful we get our teachers in quickly and ready to go, because part of our concern has always been not only the health and safety of our students and staff, we want them to be safe and healthy, but at the same time, from an operational standpoint, we can't run school with sick teachers. The teacher's home sick, nobody's in school teaching the kids. So the reality is this is kind of a natural next step for us to be fully operational. And we have several employees out right this minute with positive COVID tests. Does it impact our operations? Absolutely. So the anecdote to that is a vaccine. I sound like I'm trying to sell the vaccine. I have no stock in Pfizer or Moderna or any of that. But all good questions. Other questions? sorry for the length of that. Y'all are going to get tired of hearing me talk about COVID. Thank you.
Operations update with Mr. Pappas.
Good evening, School Board, Chairman Carter, Superintendent. And of course, that goes over safety protocols and driving and urging drivers to use all of the safety things that we've taught them. But one of the things we concentrated on as well this time was the mitigation strategies, and they're all spraying between every run. So I'm pretty happy with to share that with you. Today, we had all schools going, which we haven't done since the 13th, Friday the 13th in March. And it was nice to have going. My radio was going. It was with me starting at 6:30 in the morning, no matter where I was. And we continue to deliver school packets as we've done all these months. If anybody had a chance to see the wonderfully narrated and filmed high school welcome back video, if you haven't seen it, you really should. But they say beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And for this beholder, I was very proud that pictures of our shiny floors and clean school were abundant. And people in Wisconsin are going, wow, why isn't our school that clean? So I was very happy to see that. But it was a wonderful welcome back video. All are to be praised for that great job. In maintenance, I'm pleased to report that the air conditioning, long awaited, since long before I was here 13 years ago, is fully operational and comes in very handy when it's 45 outside. But thank you, even an ill wind blows some good, and that was done with CARES money. So we're very grateful, and that'll help make sure the air is circulated and comfortable for students, and obviously it'll be cleaner. Part of the CARES Act, maintenance has been very diligent and busy putting in touchless devices in all the restrooms and in classrooms where there's water fountains and sinks and such. And that's going very smoothly with one exception. We didn't get all of them done in the high school, so we're a little bit behind in some of the bathrooms, but every bathroom has at least one touchless faucet at a sink operational. That'll all be fixed by Thursday. In your items for consideration later, you'll be talking about part of the middle school modernization, but I just want you to know that maintenance has worked diligently and with the help of the IT folks and Brandon and teachers. The school is bare. There's very little in the cupboards of the school, and we are ready for the contractor to mobilize. And they should be here, all going according to Hoyle. They'll be here on February 1st. Food service has been quite active and busy. We currently have 3 reviews going. Actually, one, which is the federal review, which happens every 3 years, has been postponed because of COVID until next year. We were all set for it, but now we'll have to get reset for it again next year. That's the 3-year federal review. We also are in the midst of a procurement review. We'll have that stuff finalized next week. And we just found out today that our review of our summer food service program, which allows us to serve free meals to students all year, allows us to offer meals at the primary school to be distributed as they are Mondays and Thursdays, which are also free, and a shameless plug to please go and avail yourself of them. It would help the school division, and it helps children getting nutritious meals, and for parents who are beleaguered by a myriad of things, it helps so you don't have to worry about every meal for your children. We just got our results today, and there were no findings, so I'm very thrilled about that. And then lastly, in food service, our families in Poquoson who are eligible will get will shortly be receiving their PEBT cards. The P stands for pandemic, but PEBT cards will be going out. We had to provide information to the DOE so that they could request those cards. And again, that helps families get food. And that concludes my operations report.
Financial update with Ms. Woodruff.
Good evening, Chairman Carter and members of the school board. For the finance report, I wanted to start with a brief update on our CARES funding. As Mr. Pappas mentioned, we finished the HVAC project at the high school at the end of December. And along with the touch list, that was kind of the last piece of the spending that we had on that $370,000 that we had to spend by December 30th. And at December 27th, they decided to give us another year, but we spent it all. We were also notified last week that we've been allocated another $206,729 from the state's elementary and secondary school relief, emergency relief, or ESSER funds. They're calling it an ESSER 2. If you recall, we got $55,000 before. This time we're getting $206,000. We are awaiting additional information on the requirements of this funding. We think it will be very similar, but as soon as we get that information, we will determine a spending plan for those funds. We've also been reviewing the revised calculation tool received from the Department of Education for FY21. Just like most other school divisions have experienced a reduction in enrollment, we are down about 67 students this year. However, in the governor's proposal, he has included no loss funding to hold school divisions harmless from this loss. So this will provide us the $312,000 in funding for FY21, which helps us maintain our funding level for this year. Mr. Tillett will be presenting an FY22 budget update to the board at the work session immediately following this meeting. And that concludes my report.
And instructional update with Dr. Fox.
Good evening, Chairman Carter, Vice Chair Sheeler, board members, and Mr. Tillett. My update for you this evening is just a final review of our program of studies updates and some important registration information for parents and families. As you recall, last month in our meeting, I presented to you our program of studies information, and just a quick reminder that faculty and staff submit their information in September. Our committee meets in October and November. We share the information with you in December, and then you vote on those proposed changes tonight, and all of that has a purpose, as I'll share with you later. Very small number of changes this year. If you recall, over the past 4 years, we've made a number of substantial changes to the program of studies. This year at the high school level, we're going to add the African American Studies course, and we're offering dual enrollment Spanish for students so they can earn that 6 college credits before they graduate from high school. At the middle school level, we just have some quick, simple updates to the course descriptions for those 3 tech ed courses that we offer for students in grades 6, 7, and 8. Our next steps is, once it's approved, hopefully that will be the case tonight, we will post it online. We'll send it off to the printer. We still do print a few hard copies for schools and parents. February, believe it or not, the course registrations begin for students in grades 5 through 11. So that's why this process starts so early in the fall, to be ready for that process in February. April, once we get all of that information from families, our middle school and our high school begin developing their master schedules that we use for next year, and that also determines our staffing allotments that we need for the coming school year. And then right around this period of time, we also usually have our parent information nights. Obviously, due to COVID, we're making those virtual this year. So we have scheduled presentations with our school counselors and administrators where we'll share registration process information, schedule and course information, and graduation requirements with students in grades 5 through 11. There will be a question and answer period at the end of those virtual sessions. We are going to record all of them so that anybody who can't attend that night can view it at their convenience later on. So look for information over the next couple of weeks coming from our school principals. We'll send emails, we'll post information on our web pages and through our social media so you know when and where those are. Just as a teaser, here are the dates and times. Our first one will be our Rising Freshman Parent Information Night on Thursday, February 4th at 6 p.m. And again, we'll send more information that'll include the link for those meetings. And that concludes my report this evening, Dr. Carter.
I have one. It's not about what you just spoke about, but it's about SOLs. Any update on if there's, I know as of now, they're still planning on having students take them. What do y'all think? Are they going to keep on that line of thinking, or?
Yeah, we think so. There are a couple of waivers that are available that we're working through for some of the testing where we could potentially offer performance assessments instead of the standard sit-down SOLs. So we're working through all of that information to decide where we want to go. We have the option for that. So I would expect we'll have an update for you next month on that. Okay, thank you.
Any public comment tonight, Ms. Reimers?
No, sir. Do not.
Thank you.
Sure. The consent agenda includes the approval of financial reports, the approval of personnel action, the authorization to change appropriation, and to accept and expend funds in accordance with the attached request.
Thank
The fourth has been moved on to other matters.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Reimers, could you call for a vote, please?
Mr. Freeman.
Aye.
Mr. Ingram.
Aye.
Mr. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Holcomb. Ms. Hessel. Vice Chair Sheeler.
Aye.
Chairman Carter. Motion passes.
Thank you. Other matters for consideration, approval of minutes for the December regular meeting. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Ms. Reimers, could you call for a vote, please?
Mr. Freeman.
Aye.
Mr. Ingram.
Aye.
Mr. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Holcomb.
Abstain. Aye.
Chairman Carter.
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Thank you, ma'am. Item A, other matters for consideration, is consideration of approval of second reading changes to policy 7-1.2, equal educational opportunities, and policy 5-1.7, sexual abuse and harassment based on race, national origin, disability, religion, and first reading for the adoption of 5-3.8, sexual harassment prohibited by Title IX. Mr. Tillett, would you like to speak to that, sir?
Yeah, these were in our packet for our last meeting, and these are updates as recommended by our attorney from some change in general statutes related to those two areas. We, just as a sidebar, we don't actually, oh, no, that's the next one, sorry. I'll reserve that comment, but these are updates in the law, and our policy now, this new policy now meets those updates.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion to approve?
Chairman Carter.
Ma'am.
That should read down at the bottom. That's for the adoption of 5-3-8. That was on the agenda.
That is second reading for the adoption of 5-3.8, sexual harassment prohibited by Title IX.
That's correct.
Thank you, ma'am. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Questions or comments there? Ms. Reimers?
Mr. Freeman.
Aye.
Mr. Ingram.
Aye.
Mr. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Holcomb. Mrs. Hessel. Sheeler. Chairman Carter. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And item B, consideration of approval of second reading for the adoption of 7-3.10, restraint and seclusion. Mr. Tillett.
Yeah, well, I got ahead of myself last time. That is, of course, the second reading, and that's an update from general statute related to restraint. And our practice in Poquoson, we don't use seclusion or restraint and have not in many, many years. So not a practice we have, but we've been advised to have a policy in the case there is a need to use this policy to protect a student or staff member.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second? Second. Are any questions, comments there? Timers?
Mr. Freeman.
Aye.
Mr. Ingram.
Aye.
Mr. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Holcomb. Mrs. Hessel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Steeler.
Aye.
Chairman Carter.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next item, consideration of approval of changes to the 2021-2020 program of studies as outlined by Dr. Fox. I have a motion to approve. Moved. And a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments there? Aye.
Mr. Ingram.
Aye.
Mr. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Holcomb. Mrs. Hessel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Steeler.
Aye.
Chairman Carter.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, ma'am. Item D, consideration of approval to authorize the superintendent to contract with Heartland Construction for the PMS modernization project. Mr. Tillett.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is exciting news, and I'm told it's been a long time coming. But this contract, I hope you've had an opportunity to review it, is a solid contract with our lowest bid, a bid that came in right on budget. We've shared that information with City Manager Wheeler, and at last City Council meeting Monday, the 11th, City Council approved the borrowing of the remainder of this package, debt package, and with a bit of exciting news. As you'll recall, last about 3 meetings ago, we reviewed the capital improvement plan, and we were able to move forward from 2024 to 2022, fiscal year 2022, the replacement of our artificial football field. And that field is, the next season we play on will be 12 years old, and lifespan's about 8 to 10, and we've done all the patching we can do, as you'll recall in that presentation. So what's exciting about this is with low interest rates in the market, City Council has chosen to include that field immediately in this debt package without any additional burden on the taxpayer, no tax rate increase, which I think a very visionary move on the part of City Council. And Mr. Pappas and I were there at the meeting last Monday, and we were excited that that was added. I want to thank publicly City Council members, Mayor Helsel, and City Manager Wheeler for all their work on that. So that's exciting. As soon as that debt package comes in and gets their final approval, maybe as soon as next meeting or next month, and we'll send out for bid to replace that field. Why that's all part of this same process is that is on the campus of the new middle school, of course. And so we're excited about the completion of that. We'll have a brand new field, and our students will move in a completely renovated middle school in January of 2000, hopefully on budget.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion to approve. Second? Second. Any comments, questions there? Aye.
Mr. Ingram.
Aye.
Mr. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Holcomb. Mrs. Hessel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Steeler.
Aye.
Chairman Carter.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And item E, consideration of approval of guidelines for implementation of the Public-Private Educational and Infrastructure Act of 2002. Mr. T.
Yes, this is on the advice of our attorney. There are some guidelines that needed to be updated as we entertain solicited and unsolicited proposals from vendors for services. And while we thought it was wise to go ahead and update those as there's possibilities for some investments coming up that we'll be talking about at future meetings. This will give us an opportunity to apply these new vetted guidelines for our attorney as we look at public-private days in the future. It just hadn't been done some time.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion to approve. And a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments there? Aye.
Mr. Ingram.
Aye.
Mr. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Holcomb.
Aye.
Mrs. Hessel. Aye. Vice Chair Schuler.
Aye.
Chairman Carter.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item, consideration of approval of personnel action to approve head JV football coach, and that item was enclosed. I have a motion to approve. Second?
Second.
Any questions, comments there? Aye.
Mr. Ingram.
Aye.
Mr. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Holcomb.
Aye.
Mrs. Hessel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Schuler.
Aye.
Chairman Carter.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
And last item, consideration of approval of proclamations of National School Counselors Week and School Principals Appreciation Week. School Counseling Week, school counselors help students reach their full potential. They are actively committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to development. And comprehensive developmental school counseling programs are considered part of the educational process that enables all students to achieve success in school. School Principals Appreciation Week. School principals work cooperatively to direct, develop, and inspire all members of the school staff and student body, and to communicate effectively with parents to engage them in the learning process. They serve as educational leaders responsible for managing the policies, regulations, and procedures necessary to ensure a safe and effective learning environment for all students in Poquoson Public Schools. And School Principals Appreciation Week is an opportunity to recognize the hard work of school principals and to recognize the importance of principals in ensuring that every child has access to quality education. Do I have a motion to approve? Second? Any questions, comments there? Can't say enough about the work that our principals. I don't know how you handle it all, but my hat's off to you, and I'm sure I can speak for every board member here, so nice job, and we truly appreciate the work that you do. Ms. Reimers?
Mr. Freeman.
Aye.
Mr. Ingram.
Aye.
Mr. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Holcomb.
Aye.
Mrs. Hessel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Schuler.
Aye.
Chairman Carter.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
And next item, communications, other matters for school board or superintendent.
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. All right, Cassidy, you're up.
Poquoson Primary School has successfully started the new year. All of our students did such a great job with our fully remote schedule the first 2 weeks of January. We welcomed our hybrid B-Day students today and look forward to seeing our A-Day students again on Thursday. We would like to invite Poquoson families with preschool students residing in Poquoson to consider our preschool IPOP program for the 2021 to 2022 school year. Information and applications are on our website and due February 15th. Kindergarten registration for the 2021 to 2022 school year is open from February 8th to the 19th. Please go to our website for more information about kindergarten registration. Call the primary school office with questions, and thank you for your support of our school. Poquoson Elementary. Even though we were all virtual, Poquoson Elementary School was able to create engaging learning activities for students that were a lot of fun. Third graders took part in a STEM activity to support determining importance in observation of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. One student created a podium to resemble the one he used during the I Have a Dream speech. Many of the activities that students take part in focus on supporting the social and emotional needs of students during virtual learning. All grade levels use breakout rooms for small group virtual instruction, which allows the teacher to make a more personal connection with the students. Once a month, a 4th grade virtual class has a spirit day, and last Friday was Buddy Day, where students are paired up with another student for buddy breakout room time for socializing. Some teachers use arthubforkids.com to offer students some time to socialize with each other as well as learn more about how to draw. Fifth grade teachers also had lunch dates with their students while they were virtual to keep in touch and maintain the relationships they had built earlier in the school year. Today, as teachers returned to school, they each received a bag of popcorn to celebrate National Popcorn Day. Poquoson Middle School hosted a virtual spelling bee consisting of 2 levels of competition beginning in December. Congratulations to Reagan Stanton, our Poquoson Middle School spelling bee champion. We wish her the best of luck as she competes in the regional competition. PMS was excited to welcome 8th grade B-Day students back to in-person learning today. We look forward to welcoming A-Day students on Thursday. In preparation for the return to in-person learning, our VTSS All-In Committee made videos to demonstrate our new health mitigation procedures and provide students with a virtual tour of our new campus. Thank you to the Poquoson Fire Department for helping us with this. They provided the drone footage to give students a better view. Poquoson Middle School will be hosting Parent Night Information Nights virtually next month in preparation for the 2021 to 2022 school year. Topics covered include course information and the registration process. We would like to thank the PMS parents for their continued support and collaboration. As we start 2021, the Poquoson High School Islanders continue to be hard at work. Today, we were thrilled to welcome back our students on the continuum in Group A, and we look forward to seeing the students in Group B this Thursday and Friday. It is wonderful to once again see our students learning in our classrooms, participating in athletics, and continuing to find ways to give back to our community. In December, our SEA collected over 100 coats, and our Leo Club is preparing to launch a food drive. Thank you to all of those who are supporting these valuable community efforts. We are already looking ahead to the 2021 to 2022 school year, as the time for course registration has arrived. Online course registration will open for students on January 25th, and families can begin scheduling meetings to review academic and career plans with school counselors on February 1st. Our PHS counselors will host a virtual information for the families of rising 9th grade students on Thursday, February 4th at 6 p.m. We encourage our families to check their email for more information about the entire course registration process and to reach out to the counseling department with any questions. As the first semester concludes, students are reminded to finish strong. We look forward to what the second semester has in store. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the cafeteria workers who are distributing food on Mondays and Thursdays. I think they're a little underappreciated sometimes, but they are just doing a phenomenal hard work and keeping our kids fed. I'd also like to congratulate all our athletes. I know the seasons have started, and your hard work and effort paying off. I know we've had a lot of wins here lately, so good job on that. Way to go, Bulls. Keep up the hard work. And I'm just happy that everyone's finally back in school. Just need to figure out how to get.
Yeah, I want to congratulate Miss Nelson on her achievement, and it was wonderful looking at all the artwork. I really enjoyed the video. And just today, was a testament to all the hard work the office and all the staff have put in, over these past wonderful job. We were able to open all the doors up today, so great job. Thank you.
No comment this evening other than just Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Holcomb.
Made me pause there for a second. At our house, first day of school is always a big deal, with the cameras and the video stuff. So this morning we went out in the driveway, and the only difference was he was 16 driving his own car this morning. His first day of school this year, so still a big deal though. Felt proud to be a Poquosian, proud to be an American. We're going to get through this, and really to echo Mr. Ingram, I really appreciate all the work you guys have done on the administration level in the schools to make it possible. I just felt proud this morning that we got our kids back in school.
Thank you, Ms. Helson.
Amen. I couldn't agree more. I'm very happy we're all back in school. Hopefully we can get more days of the week, just like we were talking. I also want to thank our council and our mayor for approving the funds for the new bill. Very excited about that. It's awesome. And Ms. Woodrup, thank you. And a lot about for my father-in-law after he's newly in office, and always do such a great job. So everybody in the central office,
I wanted to thank all the students who showed us their artwork, from beautiful drawings to very complex origami. That was very cool. Congratulations also to Maggie Nelson as Poquoson High School Senior of the Month. Very impressive resume. I'm always amazed at how much these kids can do. Woo! And that was great news about the bids received for our modernization project. Very, very exciting to have a bid not only that comes in and is good, but it comes in on budget. Yay! And just one final reminder to maintain those mitigation strategies at home so that we can all get out of this hole that we're in. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Cassie, I loved what you said about the street sweeper. You know, whatever you're going to do, just do your best at it, and that sums up a lot. So I really appreciated you sharing that with us tonight. And Mr. Tillett talked about that our teachers have been classroom since day one. That's phenomenal. They're not trying to duck out, and what it is dedication, knowledge, and helping them learn. So hats off to the teachers for making that happen. And also today we received Ugler is commending the Poquoson High School wrestling team that won the Virginia High School League Class II state championship in February 2020. Okay, but we did this, and it is very well done, so I'm sure displayed at some point. So I did want to share that with everybody.